Hi, everybody. Happy Easter. Bye.
It's Carol's birthday. Happy Easter.
Yeah, it is Miss Carol's birthday.
You want to show them what you colored?
When you're watching it.
What does that say?
A bus go round.
Bunny?
No.
Stop here.
Bunny, stop here.
That's right.
Bye.
And I'm going to take it.
You want to tell them bye?
And stop and just walk on it.
Tell them bye.
Bye. What I can do when I watch Harry Potter.
You can go play with the Encanto house.
Well, I can't see it.
All right. Carol, when you watch this, you should feel special. The kids gave you a shout out since it was your special day on Saturday. So I think that's the first time they've ever told somebody happy birthday. So I tell you, my kids speak what's on their mind, and that was on their mind tonight. We're going to continue. We only have this lesson and one other lesson left. And then I'm not sure where we're going to go. And I don't think I'm going to finish this on Easter. I think I am going to do a spring devotional, something not related to this, and then we'll finish this the week after Easter. So, I think that's the plan, but you all know me by now. I change my mind quite often. So this week we're talking about Joseph of Arimathea, and I'm going to read a little bit about Joseph. It says, Joseph had worked his entire life to make a difference. He was from the sacred village where the prophetic schools of Samuel had once been. His parents gave him a good education and brought him up in affluence. They taught him how to conduct himself as a spiritual leader of the people. He even secured for himself a chair on the Sanhedrin, the most important governing body among the Jews. As a member of the Sanhedrin, Joseph took his honored position seriously. But when his colleagues staged a conspiracy against Jesus, he fooled himself into thinking that the rule of the law would protect him and that he would not have to come out of hiding to defend him. He couldn't deny the power of their hatred now. Jesus was dead on a tree. Joseph felt responsible. Maybe his influence could have swayed public opinion and saved Jesus' life, but there was no use trying now. Still, he had to do something. Jesus' body could not be left to decompose on the cross. Joseph had a tomb. He could give his Lord an honorable burial. He no longer cared what his colleagues would think. The consequences could not compare with the spiritual matters at stake. He swallowed hard and entered Pilate's quarters to ask for the body of Jesus, thinking that it is never too late to overcome your fears for Christ. So that is the Joseph of Arimathea that we are talking about. The Joseph, from here on out, I'm just going to say Joseph, but that's the Joseph that we are going to talk about. And most of us know him for this very reason, the burial of Jesus, what he did with Jesus' dead body. But I want to read 4 verses that tell us a little bit more about Joseph. Mark 15:43. Joseph of Arimathea, a respected member of the council, who was also himself looking for the kingdom of God, took courage and went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. John 19:38. After these things, Joseph of Arimathea, who was a disciple of Jesus, but secretly for fear of the Jews, asked Pilate that he might take away the body of Jesus, and Pilate gave him permission. So he came and took away his body. Matthew 27:57. When it was evening, there came a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who was also a disciple of Jesus. And Luke 23:50. Now there was a man named Joseph from the Jewish town of Arimathea. He was a member of the council, a good and righteous man. These 4 verses tell us a little bit about how Joseph was. We know from these verses he was from Arimathea. He was a member of the council. The council is the Sanhedrin. The Sanhedrin is who put Jesus to death. He was one of those. We know he was a disciple, and a disciple meant serving Jesus in some way. And when these verses, it said that Joseph was a disciple of Jesus. So he served Jesus in some way. We know he was rich, and we know he was a good and righteous man. All of these things are good, but Joseph had one weakness, and that weakness was fear. And we saw that in John 19:38 that we just read. And who did he fear? If we go back and read that again, it says, after these things, Joseph of Arimathea, who was a disciple of Jesus, but secretly for fear of the Jews. Fear of the Jews. he asked Pilate that he might take away the body of Jesus and gave him permission. So he took away the body. So he had a fear of the Jews. He lives in this Jewish town. He's from this Jewish town, and he fears these Jews. He fears this group of people. His fear was so great that we see in that verse, he went secretly to Pilate. He didn't go when anybody else was around. He didn't go when Pilate was talking to other people. He waited for Pilate to be by himself on his own where nobody would see him talk. I don't know. Part of me thinks that maybe it was done at nighttime because you can't see very well at night. So if somebody was out, they may know there's two people talking, but may not be able to make out who they were. I don't know. But we know that he went secretly to Pilate because he didn't want anyone to know. This was a huge risk he was doing this. Or by doing this, he took a major, major risk. He risked ceremonial uncleanness because you're not supposed to touch a dead body. He risked the scrutiny of his colleagues because who was he part of? The Sanhedrin. And what did the Sanhedrin do? They just killed Jesus. They're the ones who started this plot. So he's going to have scrutiny of the people in the council with him. He could even have dismissal from the synagogue. And he could have had wrath from Pilate. So he has a lot to risk. He is putting his life on the line to ask for Jesus' body. It took a lot of courage, a lot of faith for Joseph to approach Pilate, but he did it. He did it. Joseph had what I call a silent faith. It wasn't a faith that was well known. It was quiet. He kept it secret. He kept it inside until this moment. Until this moment when he went to Pilate, he finally let somebody know he had faith. He was a believer. He didn't do that. Again, because of all the scrutiny. He was part of the Sanhedrin. You weren't supposed to like Jesus. You weren't supposed to believe Jesus. But he did. He had to keep that all secret. We can learn from Joseph. And the major thing we can learn is Joseph teaches us that it's never too late to overcome our fears for Christ. And it doesn't matter how long it's been, but we can always overcome our fears. So what did Joseph actually do? Okay, we're talking about him, but what did he actually do? Well, we know that he was the one who took care of Jesus' body and gave Jesus a proper burial. In that time, when you were crucified, you were left, after you were hung, after you took your last breath, you were just left there. They didn't take you down, because if you remember from a few devotionals ago, if they took you down, the ground was cursed. If your feet touched the ground, that ground was cursed. So they just left you there. What happens? You decompose. Birds are going to eat you. Animals are going to get you. And that's what happened. You were just left there until the birds came and ate you. And Joseph did not want this to happen to Jesus. So he had to do something and do something quick. So that is why he went to Pilate and he asked for Jesus' body. Once he got permission from Pilate, Joseph removed the nails from Jesus' hands. This is where the uncleanliness comes in, because Jesus is dirty. He's dead. Dead bodies are dirty. So he has to remove the nails from his hands and feet to get them off. He took Jesus off the cross, and he wasn't the only one there. We have Nicodemus, who is a good friend of Joseph's, and he was there with him during this time. And they both took the body of Jesus. They both bound it up in linens that they had brought. And Nicodemus had brought a whole bunch of spices. And they had covered these linens in spices. So they lay Jesus, or I guess somehow they wrap him up in these linens. And it reminds me of a mummy. That's what I pictured in my mind. It may not be anything like that. But in my mind, they put Jesus down and they wrapped him up to where he would look like a mummy. Then they picked him up. They carried him. Now, this is another thing. Back then, when you had tombs, you just piled as many people in there as you can. If you're one of the lucky ones that got to be buried, have a proper burial, you were just thrown into, I don't want to say a pit, but a hole with all these other people. Probably your family, but it didn't have to just be family. You were put in a certain tomb. Jesus' body was a tomb that was brand new. Brand new. No one had ever been in it. It had never been used. And that was a big deal. That was something that showed status. You had to be rich. People think that this was Joseph's actual tomb, since he was a rich man that we had read in in the verse before at the beginning of this devotional. We don't know, but it's a brand new tomb. Joseph knew where it was. He picked it out, and this is where he chose to lay Jesus's body. Once Nicodemus and Joseph get Jesus in there, they get him how they want him. They make sure he's wrapped up so he smells better and make sure he has the proper burial. They roll a big stone in front of the entrance to the tomb. Then they left. Now we know why they rolled the stone in front of the tomb. No one could get in. Your animals can't come in and get you. But also it's to serve for, we know he was in there 3 days. And 3 days he arose again. And the stone was moved. Again, if there was no stone there, it may have not been that big of a miracle. Yes, it had been a miracle that he woke up, but not as, okay, who moved the stone? How did he get out? We know nobody came and stole his body. They couldn't move the stone. So they left. And that is really all we know about Joseph. We don't know anything else about Joseph. But just that simple act of making sure Jesus had the proper burial. Now again, he was on the Sanhedrin. He saw everything that they did to Jesus. He was there for the beatings. He was there for the torture. He was there for the walk to the cross. He was there when Jesus was hung. He was there when Jesus died. And now he had, well, I'm going to say he had a change of heart, because we see that he had the silent faith, right? He believed. He just didn't let anybody know he believed. He was a disciple of Jesus. He was just very quiet. But he overcame his fear. And he finally just got to the point of, I have to do this. I have to let people know that I believe in him. And it's that life-changing moment. And we kind of see this each week with each person we've talked about. They have that light bulb moment. That big moment where their life is changed. And this was Joseph's. He decided that he would risk being made fun of from the Sanhedrin. He would risk being thrown out of the council. He would risk everything he had because he had to do this. He knew Jesus was innocent. And I think that's a big part of Pilate letting him go, letting Joseph take Jesus down, because everybody knew Jesus was innocent. They knew Jesus didn't deserve this. So here Joseph is, the very last thing you could possibly do. He was trying to honor Jesus in the only way he knew how. But he had to come over his fear. This burial of Jesus might have been Joseph's greatest achievement. But we have to remember he had to put aside his fears. Joseph was not and will not be the only believer who struggled and will struggle with fear. So how do we handle our fears? Are we like Joseph and we put our fears to the side so we can do what is right? Or do we let the fear of others consume us, make us cower down, make us not be the Christian we need to be? How do we handle our fears? Are we honoring God when we overcome our fears and how we handle our fears? That is it for today. Like I said, next week, I'm pretty sure I'm going to do something dealing with spring, unless something totally random comes up. I think that's what we're going to do. And then the week after that, we will do Peter. We will end this series with Peter. And then I really don't know where we're going to go from there. I haven't looked. So thank you as always for listening. And I hope you all have a great week. And I'll talk to you later.